G'day everyone, welcome back to another weekly tipping video on the channel. Going to be going over my tips for round 20 of the 2025 AFL season. 5 rounds remain, it's getting tight up the top. So without further ado, let's get into the footy tips. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you do go to enjoy, however. And let's get straight into it. Let's have a quick look on how I went from round 19, and I got myself a 6 out of 9. So fairly average score, I'd say, for the round. I tipped the Giants over Essendon. 48 points was the actual margin. I tipped them by 45, so only 3 points off. Brisbane over the Dogs. The Dogs, another gallant defeat. They just can't afford to have those. They need to win, especially against the sides above them. Hawthorn over Port Adelaide. The Swans over North Melbourne. Backed in the D's over the Blues, and I just felt I had to back in Carlton there. Surely I do a win, and yeah, it was a real arm wrestle this game, but Carlton too good. And how about that from the Tigers? I thought West Coast get it done at home, but Richmond a terrific win away from home against the hapless Eagles. Really disappointing performance. The Cats over the Saints. They got rolling after half time. The Pies over Fremantle. What a game this was, in a final quarter comeback from the Dockers. Their fourth terms this season, especially the last 10 weeks, has been outstanding. And Adelaide, a real big win over the Suns. I thought this one would be a lot closer. I'll have a quick look now at my tipping competition leaderboard update. The 3 people that got themselves a full 9 out of 9 score is Dino92, Flagmantle25, and Steve-O. Well done to you lot. And as for who is leading my competition, it still is the main man, leading with a total score of 148 points, 𝐼𝐴𝐿𝐿89. So let's now begin with the tips for round 20. 5 rounds remaining, in these games are very important, especially for the top 9. We start with a top 9 playing of Hawthorn hosting the Blues at the MCG. Well, the news I heard earlier today, Sam Docherty, what a player he's been, and just a lovable figure through all the hardships he's been through, is retiring. So could the Blue Baggers really get up from here, and could this be almost their grand final? Look at the Hawks, they're in some good form. 4 out of the last 5 games, with that loss coming against Fremantle with a disappointing final term, but bounced back with a strong win over Port Adelaide. It was a cagey affair up until the second half, really, where I thought Hawthorn overall were a lot more cleaner in the tough conditions in comparison to Port Adelaide. Got the job done on the inside, and some of their goals they kicked in the wet, really good quality. Blues finally broke the drought and got a win against the Demons last week. They always seem to have a good record over Melbourne, and they always seem to be close games when both sides do play. It was an arm wrestle, but Carlton, I thought overall their pressure, especially on the inside, was great and really restricted Melbourne's ball movement. And yeah, were able to kick some nice goals back the other way. 𝐼𝐴𝐿𝐿9 had a real big game, was impactful high up the ground. So you'd think he's going to be critical importance once again. And 𝐓𝐿𝐴𝐿𝐼𝐴, I think his last few games especially, he's been playing some good footy as of late. 𝐼𝐴𝐿𝐼𝐴 with 4 goals as well. Really great on both feet. He's great to watch at the minute. And as we said, with Docherty retiring, could they really get up for this game, Carlton? And can they bring a repeat of really strong pressure, especially on the inside? And yeah, really put Hawthorn under the pump a bit with their ball movement, because as we know, Hawthorn, one of the best ball moving teams in the competition. Overall though, I think the Hawks will have too much firepower up the forward half, and yeah, like how they're moving the football at the minutes. But just like last time out these two sides play, I think it would be another repeat of Hawthorn being a bit too slick for the Blues. It will be a cagey affair for most of it, but Hawthorn run away with this one and win by 20 points. For the Friday night games now, first one up, we do have Essendon taking on the Western Bulldogs at Marvel Stadium. Well, the Dons, a pretty expected performance last week against the Giants. They started okay, were actually looking like the better team for probably the first 15 or 20 minutes, and yeah, just really faded out of that game. So many injuries in the minute, a lot of debutants playing out there. Young 𝐼𝐴𝐿𝐼𝐴 kicked 2 goals on debut, that was a good sight to see. Got to be a lot more tougher in the contest, unlike last time they played the Dogs. They were just absolutely smashed on the inside, and a lot of unforced errors they had in there. I think, 95-point loss last time out against the Dogs, so got to fix up on those areas. As for the Dogs, a bit of the same old performance. I'm sure their supporters are having enough of it, these gallant defeats. It was a game they really could have pinched and had the great escape against Brisbane, but overall the scoreboard probably flattered them. Brisbane were pretty inaccurate, whilst the Dogs were very accurate themselves. They're a great scoring team, and whenever they can put on some good goals against good opposition, you always think, geez, the Dogs can really make this a contest and potentially get a win against a good side, but they just can't defend well enough. Sides, when they exit that congestion, they can really get the Dogs out the back and into open space. That's an area that definitely the Dogs have to improve on, but as we all know, they're very good against these lowly ranked teams, and a depleted Essendon side, you'd think also fairly low on confidence. The Dogs should be able to bounce back here and be too strong overall in most facets of the game. So the Dogs should win big here like they did play last time out and win this one by 40 points. Then the other Friday night game, we have the Sydney Derby, the Giants taking on the Swans over at NG Stadium. The form lines, to be honest, fairly similar. Swans 4 out of the last 5 and the Giants 5 out of the last 5, and they're really humming at the minute. The Giants did lose against the Swans last time out, but that's when they were sort of patchy here and there, but they're just in real good order across many areas of the game. I think their midfield and the clearance game's been a lot better the last 5 weeks. Callaghan's just been buzzing around like a bee. He's been everywhere, getting handball receives between the arcs. Tom Green's been awesome on the inside. They will most likely get in some reinforcements too of Sam Taylor and also Jesse Hogan. Against the Swans though, they don't usually have a great record over Sydney. The last time the Giants beat the Swans was in 2023, and whenever the Giants win these games, they're always close margins. But could this be the time, given Sydney season's pretty much over, to win big? I think it certainly could be the case. I think their ability to move the ball and their turnover game, especially how they're defending it and how they're using it off the turnover, has been remarkable. I think the last 6 weeks really starting to build up those numbers. For Sydney though, they'll almost likely get in Tom Papley and Tom McCartan, so you could say almost like a full strength looking team for Sydney as well. Midfield battle should be really interesting. Both sides, especially the last few weeks, have been very good in there. The Swans have been one of the better stoppage teams in the competition and being able to score from that, whilst the Giants have been great in the clearances. So whoever can win that midfield battle, I think that will be a key tale to this game, whoever wins. My head's telling me the Giants probably get up here. I think their firepower and how they're moving in the minute is really damaging, and the Swans have struggled against sides that can really move it well off transition. But the Swans just have a great record over the Giants, and I think they'll keep their season alive here. I've just got that feeling Sydney will turn up for this game. They themselves have been moving the ball a lot better the last few weeks, so I'll back in Sydney and 𝐓𝐴𝐥𝐼𝐷 in this one. We'll go back and forth, but the Swans pinch a close one and win this game by 8 points. For the Saturday games now, first one up, we do have the Q Clash, another rivalry game here. The Suns taking on the Brisbane Lions at People First Stadium. Gold Coast, disappointing loss it was against the Crows, but I'd just give them a mulligan, really. Have to remember they are still a very young team in Adelaide, and Adelaide's one of the toughest venues in football this season. They're actually winning the inside 50 count at half-time, but we're getting belted by about 60 points, and that's what we have been flagging with the Suns. I feel like their execution inside 50 has been a bit of a letdown as the season has wore on, so they need to get better in that area. No 𝐓𝐿𝐴 Miller at the minute is really hurting them. He's been huge as that score involvement player and that link-up player. 𝐷𝐸 going out for surgery, but they will regain potentially Sam Collins and also 𝘍𝐿𝐿𝐴. Last time out when the Suns did beat Brisbane, I remember it was just off the back of pure dominance in the midfield. They really shut out 𝘍𝐿𝐿𝐴 as well, went to work on him. So it's an area Gold Coast have really got to get on top of, I think, of that contested game where they've been pretty good in that area this season. Try and lock it in the forward half, get repeated entries, make it difficult for that Brisbane back half because they're moving the ball at the moment really nicely, and they're being pretty aggressive with how they're moving it through the corridor quite a bit and wanting to move it quick. So yeah, it's a challenge for the Suns, really bring that forward half pressure and force some turnover because they've been good in that area for the most part this season. But for me, I think Brisbane, at the time of this season, they're sitting in second place, a very mature side. I just see him getting the job done here. This is sort of a game where I can trust Brisbane a bit more than the Suns to just go up in the Gold Coast and find a way to win. Their turnover game is continuing to improve, and for these sort of top four sides at this stage of the year, the premiership runways we talk about, I think they're just in too good a form to drop this one. And their last loss came against a game where they probably should have won through accuracy. So yeah, I'm going to be going with Brisbane here. I think they'll be too good for the Suns and should win this one by a close one, but they'll run away with it and win by 18. Next up, we have the Dockers taking on the Eagles at Optus Stadium. Fremantle, a tremendous win it was away from home against the Pies. They were down by 22 points, I think it was, almost halfway through the fourth, but a mighty comeback that was to snatch it late. And as I've been saying all year, Fremantle's ball movement, and they really take it on through the corridor and get that run and gun game going. They're a great team to watch, and for the most part, as we did say last week, I think Collingwood's forward half pressure would be too good, and it was outstanding, and it really did stifle Fremantle's ball movement for the most part. But yeah, they just were able to really get that run and gun game going and totally outdo the Pies late. So yeah, that's going to really fill them up with confidence. A fantastic win it was, and West Coast, as we all know at the minute, they are looking quite a bit deflated. And McCall did put up in his press conference that it's just a side probably low on confidence a little bit in a lot of areas. There's been questions on their leadership as well. A few of those important plays not really having great impact at the minute. One of the worst quarters I've seen any team play that third term, absolutely blitzed by the Tigers. So yeah, just a game they really need to bounce back here and show a bit more of a gallant performance. It's a Western Derby, so surely they just get up for this game and give it a real scrap. As we have been saying, they're ball movement since halfway through the year has really improved, and their turnover numbers as well. Totally outdid Port Adelaide for the most part in that area. So I do have a feeling West Coast will make this a bit of a contest, maybe early on, but Fremantle should be too good overall. With a win like that they had over the Pies last week, you'd better believe this side is growing with confidence and should be too good here for their bitter foes. So I'll go Fremantle, and they'll win this one with a big second half performance especially, and win it well by 45 points. Saturday night games now. First one up, we do have North Melbourne taking on the 𝐓𝐿𝐷 at Marvel Stadium. North Melbourne, a really disappointing performance it was against Sydney last week, but there were some positives. To be fair, it was another performance where they looked good for 3 quarters, but then just really faded out. The ground level game and contested game was good against Sydney, but it was just like their attack was shooting with water pistols. No Larkey, no Sherry as well on the ruck. They just weren't able to really connect well inside 50. Again, just some unforced errors and just basic fundamental errors, and Sydney were able to mop up on those and absolutely blitz them, and that could be the case again if they have that against another side who are very, very efficient and very flashy with the ball of the Cats. Hot start they had over the Saints, and then they were able to wrestle their way back into the game, but pretty much just keep this one at arm's length, the Cats, with their quality. I feel like there will start to be some questions building up with the Cats though. Are they papering over the cracks a little bit? Because when you look at their performances against these top 8 sides like the Giants and Brisbane, they've failed those tests miserably. But focusing on this game alone, you just think there'll be too much quality for North Melbourne here. Really get them off the back of their really good turnover game. And whilst North, I think, can make this a contest early on, Geelong should just be too slick with their ball movement. So go the Cats in this one and should win it well by, we'll go 38 points. Next Saturday night game, we do have the showdown of the Crows taking on Port Adelaide at, of course, the Adelaide Oval. And this is probably one of the more one-sided showdowns I could potentially think of in favour of Adelaide for quite some time. They're absolutely humming at the minute, and it's just been a real progressive build-up of form across the whole season. They just keep on getting better and better week by week, it feels. And I did say a few weeks ago they look like one of the more balanced teams in the competition, and I saw Rory Sloane actually tweeted that on Twitter. Back six is in real good nick. Their forwards, so many weapons in that forward half at the minute. And just a side in real good form across all lines of the ground. And Port Adelaide, they've won 2 games out of the last 5, and how will they end off this season? Will they end it off in a real good note with some gallant defeats, or will they just really slip away and have some poor defeats? So that's one area that I'm interested in, how they'll finish off the season, but I think overall Adelaide just should be too strong with their form. But Port Adelaide will want to make this a contest. They don't want to go down with a whimper against their foes of the Crows. And look, they were fairly close last time out when they did almost come back out of nowhere and almost pinched it. Got to be a lot more stronger in the contested game. It was a real weak performance in that midfield against Hawthorn last time out. I feel like the absence of Rosie did hurt their drive out of half-back though, especially in those wet conditions. Their use out of the back 50 was fairly ordinary. So there just has to be a response, I think, for Port Adelaide. I think we'll get one in the coalface. Just has to be a response for Port Adelaide, and I like to think we will get one, but Adelaide, especially on the outside, will just be too much quality for Port Adelaide. So the Crows here, Adelaide run away with it and win this one well by 25 points. Now for the Sunday games, first one up we do have the Tigers taking on the Pies at the MCG. What a terrific win it was for the Tigers last time out against the Eagles. Away from home, a big win it was. 2 wins in a row for the first time in a while for the Tigers too, and just totally blitzed them with how they moved the pill. There really was spark through that Maurice Rioli tackle. Huge tackle he had. Toronto and Hopper, I think, have sneakily gone under the radar. They've been a huge influence for this Tigers side in the midfield. And on their day, Richmond do have a small forward brigade that can really impress with the likes of Ryan Mansell and also Seth Campbell. But it's going to be one of the toughest tests in footy facing the Pies. I know they've dropped 2 games in a row, but they've been both losses where they've been in somewhat control to win the game. They could have run over the top of the Suns, and they were leading by 22 points against Fremantle. But their efficiency inside 50 probably was a bit of a letdown. They had a few chances go astray, but I don't think many associated with the Pies would be too concerned. They had over 20 inside 50s. They did enough to win the game. Not really much surprises with this tip, to be honest. I like to see Richmond push potentially the Pies for a quarter or 2, and I think they are starting to link up a bit better inside 50 now. So a team with confidence, say they could start this game off well, but Collingwood, you don't think they will be dropping this game at all against a side like Richmond, who have been impressive, but overall they should just be too good here across many areas of the game. I think that 4.5 pressure will totally outdo Richmond here and should bounce back here and join back in the winner's circle with a good win here over the Tigers, and they'll win this one by 42 points. Final game of the round at 3:20 PM at Marvel Stadium. We have the Saints taking on the D's, and this one right off the bat, it's a tricky one to tip because it's 2 teams that you don't really have much confidence when you're backing them in with a tip, and that's been the case especially for the D's. They've stitched me up quite a bit this season, but last time out these two sides played, the Saints got a really good win over an in-form Melbourne side, let's remember, and it was through their really good ball movement from the back half. As for how both teams went last week, St Kilda started off the game alright. They had some nice attacks inside 50 and some well-worked goals. 𝘲𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼 was just huge, just how he can glide across the field. He's almost untaggable, it feels like at times, and so hard to tackle. So smooth moving through the middle as well, and it was predominantly a midfield role with, I think, over 35 touches. So all the talk's been about him for the Saints, but then again, it's just another performance where their execution lets them down at times, and yeah, the Cats just totally outdid them with their ball movement. So yeah, against a bit of a weaker opposition, the Saints have lost, what, 6 games in a row? Surely they are due for a win here against a team ranked similar to them of the D's. They really were outdone by the Blues' pressure. They couldn't really get much consistent ball movement from that game. 𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼 was a shining light though up forward. He's just been unreal this season, being able to kick goals from something out of nothing situations. It was reported that Petrarca was playing crook, so that sort of understands. I thought he was a bit disappointing last time out against the Blues. I asked the question to both these teams, what kind of St Kilda and what kind of Melbourne are we going to get? Because the gulf between their best and worst for both these sides is pretty drastic. Pretty stumped on who to tip with this one here, so I'll just back in the safe option here and go the favourite of the Saints. And look, I think they have been building the last 2 weeks and probably are due for a win. And yeah, you know, especially at Marvel, when they can really bring that forward half pressure, that could outdo the D's, I personally feel. So I'll back in the Saints here, go the safe tip, and yeah, a game that can really go either way. I'll go with St Kilda with not really much confidence. We'll tip them here in a 𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐴 affair by 12 points. So everyone, there are my tips for round 20 of the 2025 AFL season. Let me know your tips down below in the comment section. Are you going to be going with any upsets? Surely there are a few upsets on the cards, because yeah, the race for the top 8, you never know what could happen. It is starting to really tighten up. But that's pretty much it from me, everybody. Take care, and until next time, I'll talk to you later. See you later, fellas.